Let's go.
Let's go. Oh, no.
Do you want to?
Sorry. I'll let you.
Next one.
I'm excited and I feel relaxed and I'm ready to party. Don't say sorry. You don't need to do that. You don't need to apologize. It's a fucked up female habit. You don't need to be sorry for anything ever.
Can you guess what every woman's worst nightmare is?
I don't have rage issues!
I have nothing to prove to you.
When I'm good, I'm very good. But when I'm bad, I'm better.
I say when it comes to stardom and Lauren, there are no accidents.
Hi, Karen Peterson.
Hello, and welcome to Citizen Dame, the podcast where absolutely everything is wonderful in the world because it is Pride Month. I am Karen Peterson, joined by the amazing, incomparable Lauren Humphreys-Brooks.
The ineffable. Hello.
I almost said ineffable instead of, I was trying to combine two words there. Whoops.
The inevitable, LHB. There we go. I am. It's true. I am inevitable.
That is, yeah. You and Thanos, both of you.
Yep. For good or ill, I am inevitable.
How are you, Lauren?
I'm good. We are recording a little bit late for me, which means that, I've had a couple glasses of wine, very chill right now. So, yeah.
I mean, it's only 6 o'clock here, but I'm in my 40s and I've worked since 6 o'clock this morning. So it may as well be 9 o'clock for me, and I feel totally brain fried. So, in other words, it's late for me too. Who knows what's going to happen in this episode?
We're going to have some fun. That's what's going to happen. Because everything is good.
And you know what? Everything is gay, and I love it.
It is true.
Oh, goodness. And I say that because we're going to start with the great news, and then we'll come back to some of the news, and then we'll come back to the awesome news. That's how we're going to do this today.
All
we're
right.
going to do like the sandwich.
I support that.
So the great news, and the reason I said everything is gay, is because Our Flag Means Death got its renewal.
Yay!
And
we should have known. We should have known that they were going to wait until the first day of Pride Month.
That was such a gift from
to announce
HBO.
it. Like, as soon as they did it, I was like, I see I get it. All right. You know what? Props for that.
Yep.
But
so
yes.
we will get to see more of the saga between Stede Bonnet and Blackbeard, also known as Ed, and I cannot wait. And in, I guess, related news, we also got a 2-season pickup of What We Do in the Shadows. They are getting, not only are we anxiously awaiting season 4, which is just a few weeks away, but they have gone ahead and said, guess what, folks? You get a season 5 and a season 6 too.
Yay!
So
now we just need some crossover where we get like pirate vampires.
Yes, that's exactly what we need. Like, seriously, they could totally put Nandor and Laszlo and Nadia in What We Do in the Shadows. That would be so easy. In fact, like, Stede could be smuggling them across the ocean. They could be. Yes. He could be how they got to Staten Island in the first place.
Perfect. See, then it works. It's perfect. It's a perfect overlap, and everything will be wonderful. Yeah. No, I am
great.
I'm really excited about both of these. I kind of figured that What We Do in the Shadows was going to get, if they wanted to keep making it, I figured that it was going to get picked up. It's been very popular, but obviously
they gotta lock in that cast because they're getting all kinds of opportunities in other places, especially Harvey again, who plays Guillermo. He's just all over now, and which is so awesome to see. I love him so much. He's my favorite, and if he does not get an Emmy nomination, I will cry real actual tears.
He's doing work, he's really I'm really excited about this. And of course, I'm really excited about Our Flag Means Death. I'm glad because I think I said this on another episode where I was like, I don't know if I can emotionally handle this show not getting renewed because you can't leave me like that. Like, it's
seriously.
And and I know that the next season they're going to drag it out for as long as they possibly can. And it's going to be painful and emotional and everything. But still, I need it.
Which is what's going to make it all worth it in the end. So, yeah. Well, and that's the thing is, like, I couldn't do it until I got that official, like, I knew that they were going to renew it. I knew they would. But I just couldn't until they got the official word. Then, like, immediately I hit play on episode 1 again. I was like, okay, now I'm ready to go back in and watch this again. Because
As long as I know that this isn't the end.
Exactly. Exactly. So.
Yeah.
Just pure joy. So. Very, very.
I just can't. I keep on going like, but what's gonna happen when they see each other again? What will happen?
I cannot freaking wait. It's gonna be awesome, and because it's gonna be like so awkward, and yeah.
And also Blackbeard has like committed several murders and mutilations and like,
I mean,
yeah.
Blackbeard.
I mean, he is Blackbeard. He is a pirate. He's doing what pirates do. So, but at the same time, you're just like, bro, he's like gone full emo, just like he's descending into toxicity. It's not good, man. But yeah, I can't wait. I will be really excited to see what happens next.
It's going to be glorious. Yeah. They need to just hurry up, film it now. Well, I guess Taika is going to be busy doing some, press and stuff right now with his new movie, and then he's got another then he's got a new one coming out, like I think it's still coming out in the fall. He's just too busy.
He's got time to film stuff, like it's fine,
right? I know. I'm just trying to figure out like when would be the best time to do it. Like, could they get this out for the fall? It's probably going to be the spring, in all honesty.
Yeah.
So, but that's fine. We're getting it eventually, and that is fine. So yeah, so that was the exciting and awesome news that we got in the last week or so, and we're very, very happy. We also had some other things happen in the last week or so that made us very, very not happy. We reached the end of the Depp Heard trial, not the Depp Heard saga. That's still gonna go forever.
Yeah.
But the trial ended, and I mean, it didn't really surprise any of us, did it?
No, I guess I was kind of hoping that it would go a different way. It doesn't surprise me, but it is. I would be less bothered by this outcome if it wasn't for all of the social media shit that has surrounded it. And that's what's been really difficult and really surprising. And I don't know how we can argue that it didn't affect the trial, because the jury wasn't sequestered. There were all kinds of problems with the jury, like all of this shit. And then just to see the outpouring kind of misogyny and meanness and cruelty and everything that's coming out of this. And then the repercussions of the decision, even though, basically, and I think that this was something that a number of newspapers highlighted, was the fact that they were essentially found guilty of defaming each other. Mm-hmm. And so the idea that like, he 100% won his case, he won the social media battle, and he won, to a certain extent, he won the public battle. But it is interesting how even over the past few weeks, the attitude has shifted. And it's one of the few things that actually gives me a little bit more hope, is the way that the public has actually reacted to this has been to essentially be like, this is crazy, this is ridiculous, this is damaging. Mm-hmm. And the fact that we're actually talking about that, I think, is very important, because this is one of those things that could have happened and then people have been like, oh yeah, well, she's a bitch, we don't like her. Yeah. And it would have kind of entered that sort of realm of pop culture.
Yeah, that's a good point, because I think that the fact that when you really actually look at the 3 statements that she was found liable for, not guilty, holy crap, if people don't stop saying she was found guilty, she wasn't found guilty of anything, it wasn't a criminal trial, stop it. But the 3 statements that she made, she does not actually name him in any of those 3 statements. And then the one that he was found liable had to do with his lawyer calling her allegations a hoax. So that was very eye-opening for a lot of people, where they're like, the ones that are actually paying attention and not just like doing this whole cult of personality crap, the ones that are actually paying attention, no matter what side they initially might have been on going into that, it's like, wait, so it was wrong to say that she was committing a hoax, but also all the things that were supposedly not a hoax were like she has to pay for. It doesn't make sense. And so there's going to be an appeal, and
Yeah.
it's going to be interesting to see what happens on appeal. What was inevitable, and we all saw it coming a mile away, was how quickly everyone, not everyone, but the loud, like, free Johnny Depp people, justice for Johnny, blah blah blah, those folks immediately launched into going after Evan Rachel Wood for the things that she has said about Marilyn Manson. And then today it was all about Brad Pitt and Angelina Jolie, and like that's a whole other complicated story, and I don't know what the real story is there. I don't know any of these people, and I don't know what to believe, but it doesn't really matter because I don't have to make a decision on what to believe. What does matter is that the same Justice for Johnny folks are now Justice for Brad, and they're all in on attacking Angelina Jolie. And this is just going to keep going. Yeah. They all have carte blanche to just start, or they think they do, to just start going after any man who is accused by a woman that they decide not to like.
Yeah, no, exactly. And that's one of, and immediately, a number of different people, not just media commentators, but also people who work with domestic violence victims, were talking about what a bad precedent this sets. Because it's essentially saying, so what does this say? That you're not allowed to say that someone who beat you. You're not allowed to, and one of the things that a number of people pointed out is that one of the things that at least the social media people were using against Amber Heard was the fact that she took pictures, the fact that she recorded things.
Yeah, she did exactly what you're supposed to do and gather
evidence. Which is what you're told to do, right? Is what domestic violence victims are told to do. Get evidence. If you get hit, take a picture of it, right? Don't rely on simply your word, right? And she did exactly that. And then people were using this just like, well, obviously she was just lying or she was faking or something like that, because who in the midst of this fight or the midst of domestic violence would think to do that? It's like, so basically you're screwed if you don't, because who's going to believe your word? And you're screwed if you do, because you're obviously faking to get back at him or something like that. And that's what's so damaging about this. At the same time, I do think we need to note is that the complications of this case, including where it was tried, and including all of the people involved, including the jury, the judge, the various lawyers, et cetera. This is, something like the Evan Rachel Wood case is not the same thing. The social media impact, I think, is dangerous.
Yes, yeah.
The actual legal precedents, I think that we're going to have to wait and see what happens with all of this. We talked about a couple of weeks ago, we talked about why this was being tried in Virginia versus anywhere else, et cetera. But yeah, there is this kind of opening of, it is open a can of worms that at the end of the day, I think that there are a lot of people who were in this kind of, free Johnny Depp, that were stupid. They just did not think and did not realize, they were so wrapped up in their fave, right? That they didn't think about the reality of what was happening and the damage that they were doing. And the fact that this is anti-feminist, and I have actually told some people that I know, this is anti-feminist, this is patriarchal, you are reinforcing misogynist violence. And, and of course it gets very defensive, just like, no, I'm not, I just don't, I believe victims, and it's like, yeah, but look at the entire course of this case. Look at everything that has happened. This is violence. This is patriarchal violence, and you are participating in that. And it is very similar to some of the rhetoric that surrounded people like Monica Lewinsky, whose crime, right, was to have an affair. That's what she did wrong. And I'm not saying
President of the United States as a 23-year-old girl.
Exactly, right? So that was the big crime that she committed, and she has been, and she's finally kind of gotten out of that and is actually a very wonderful and very interesting person now. But the way that she was subjected to just jokes and cruelty and public scrutiny constantly for so long right? And this is very similar. And now we look back at that and go like, oh yeah, we really did wrong to Monica Lewinsky because we did. And now you're just like, oh, but Amber Heard's a bitch. And it's like, it's the same fucking playbook. And it's women. And we need to recognize that it is primarily women who are participating in this. It is women who are acting as the gatekeepers. It is women who are launching these misogynist attacks against other women. And we really need to deal with that. And in some ways, I don't want to say it's good. This has illuminated a problem that exists within the feminist movement and always has. Like, this isn't, a new thing particularly, but this has actually given scrutiny to it. And we really need to deal with it. We really need to talk about it because it's women that are doing this to other women. Yep,
exactly.
Ugh.
You said that so well. I do not have anything to add. So
I'm just like sitting here going, I'm mad.
Yeah, no,
mad about this shit.
This has always existed, especially whenever women's movements start to really catch on. There's always a backlash that is frequently led by women who want to uphold the patriarchy because it benefits them. And because they have a very limited worldview and lots of other reasons. But I agree with you. I find a little bit of hope in the way that people have come back around, like what we were just talking about with actually reading the verdicts and really looking at what's happening. And obviously, most of us are not legal minds, we just know what we can kind of piece together. But I think that the way people have kind of taken a step back and said, wait, this is weird. And then how quickly social media pounced on other cases. For me, I'm like, okay, this isn't supposed to be like Alana Dominoes. We didn't just knock one down and we're watching the whole thing fall now and like justice for all these wronged men. Some of these men are really terrible people. So I hope that we can get to a point where, I hope that we don't get so frustrated with the way people react that we back off and stop fighting, because we're clearly making progress.
Well, and I think that we've talked about this before, so I won't rehash the same arguments again, but the very existence of a backlash indicates that there's something to backlash against, basically. Yeah. There's something to respond to. And one of the things that has happened over the past 5 years, really, is major steps forward in not just in Hollywood, but in the way that women are treated in the world. And what we're seeing across the board is a backlash against that, is the patriarchy attempting to reassert itself. And it's doing it in a lot of different ways. And some of it is the fragmentation of the feminist movement. Because I think that some of the people who have been supporting Johnny Depp or really consider themselves to be feminists. They consider themselves to be doing the right thing and supporting victims, et cetera, and are kind of blind or not noticing the very real damage that they're doing. And so I think that there always has to be a balance. And like you say, we've talked about before about taking the long view of history and recognizing that the way to respond is not to just step back and be like, okay, well, it's over now. The way to respond is to keep on pushing forward, because the only way that a backlash succeeds is if people simply stop fighting. Right. And as long as people are fighting, we're going to continue to move forward. Yes. That's my belief.
Absolutely. Yes. Totally agree. So another not great thing, in fact, I think it's pretty horrible thing that happened this week is, Sidney Prescott herself, Neve Campbell, did announce that she will not be in the next Scream movie, Scream 6, and it's all about money. They did not offer her what she feels she is worth, what she obviously is worth, and she said no. So in a statement, she said, "Sadly, I won't be making the next Scream film. As a woman..." Sorry, it just jumped. The page just loaded weird. Sorry. Okay. As a woman, I have had to work extremely hard in my career to establish my value, especially when it comes to Scream. I felt the offer that was presented to me did not equate to the value I have brought to the franchise. It's been a very difficult decision to move on. To all my Scream fans, I love you. You've always been incredibly supportive to me. I'm forever grateful to you and to what this franchise has given me over the past 25 years. And she didn't say what the lowball offer was. And she didn't need to. The fact that she just said, the fact that she came right out and said, hey, this is what happened. This is why I said no. I'm so glad that she did, because I think that more people, especially women, when that is the reason that they're turning down a project, I think they need to say so, because the franchise exists because of her character, because of her work, because of what she did. And if they're still not going to recognize that and give her what she has determined that she deserves to make, then I think that's perfectly valid, and I think that's a good thing to talk about and be open about.
Well, and there's always this attitude when this kind of thing happens, when a woman turns down a role or says that she's not coming back to a role because of money. There's usually this immediate response, just like, oh, she's being greedy. Mm-hmm. It's just like, well, no, not really. I mean, yeah, like you say, Neve Campbell is she's Sidney Prescott. She's the star of the first Scream film. She's the star of the franchise in a lot of ways. A lot of the franchise is building off of her and her character. And so she deserves fair compensation for that. It's interesting, in the Variety article, actually, they talk about a conversation that Campbell and Jamie Lee Curtis had about, being in horror films and making money off of horror films. And both of them were talking about the fact that they didn't really earn that much from being these are seminal horror films. I mean, Jamie Lee Curtis is one of the original Final Girls, Mm-hmm. She's, and again, the Halloween franchise, it exists without her, but it also doesn't exist without her. Right. And she talked about not, particularly making a great deal of money off of making horror films. Campbell talked about, what she says is there's always the promise of a back end. And then, of course, it's drowned in publicity and costs. And they say, oh, actually, no, we didn't make the money that we're claiming we made, so we don't have to give you that. And she ends this by saying it was the Weinsteins. So, we got to remember that, too, that, and she's talking specifically about Scream 3, which is very thinly veiled about the Weinsteins. Yep. And we always have to note that you've got these, and it particularly happens to women who star in these very successful franchises, and are not getting compensated for it. So I think it's totally fair for her to be like, you know what, you're going to have to figure something out without me. Mm-hmm. And either pay me what I'm worth or leave me alone, basically. Yeah.
By the way, Scream 1 and Scream 5, or 5 Cream, are the most successful worldwide, so, of the franchise. Just fun little aside there, but anyway. So either they need to up their offer, or I hope she really does just say, nope, I'm done. And then I hope they don't do some bullshit, like kill her off screen and say like, oh no, Sidney Prescott died, because that would really be wrong. If they're gonna even do this, then it needs to just be she's living her life,
which would be a completely fine ending for the character, to be honest. Sidney Prescott deserves to just live her life. Mm-hmm.
But I just don't trust these guys. I don't trust them to not just be like, oh, well, you didn't want to take our offer? Fine. You're never coming back to this franchise because you're dead now. Yeah.
No, I absolutely. Yeah. In some ways, I felt like actually 5 Cream ended this whole concept of the legacy sequel, right, which is what it was all about, and I really enjoyed that, right? But I think that does kind of mean that they can leave the original characters alone at that point, right? So they made choices about who they were going to kill off, who they weren't going to kill off, etc. But at this point, it's like, okay, well, you've done the legacy sequel thing, so now what's the next step? And some of that can just mean leaving the original characters behind and going on and doing something different.
Right.
And there's nothing wrong with that. So, we'll have to wait and see what they actually come up with. Like, yeah, like you say, I really hope that they don't get pissy about it and be like, well, fine, we're just going to kill you off screen,
Mm-hmm. Yeah, exactly. We'll see. All right. So, are you ready to talk some movies?
I am ready to talk some movies.
So, this is June, which means it is Pride Month, and we love Pride Month. And so we wanted to kick this off with talking about some favorite queer and LGBTQ plus films. We got some great ones from some listeners too. So just to start us off, Lauren, what's one of your favorites?
One of my favorites, and it's incredibly predictable, and I don't care, is Hedwig and the Angry Inch. It's If anyone has not seen Hedwig and the Angry Inch, I believe that it should still be on Criterion. If it's not, just go and find it. It is hilarious. It is bizarre. It's wild. It's very curiously emotional. It's a fantastic film. I had the opportunity actually to see John Cameron Mitchell on stage, and he's just a great performer. Like he's wonderful to watch. I love Hedwig and the Angry Inch. It's just like, it's got that punk element to it, which I think is so much a part of queerness on film, and queerness in public is just that kind of outrageousness and that audacity and that willingness to just push the envelope of things. And it's a fantastic film. Yeah, it always like kind of energizes me. I always want to get up and dance. That and Rocky Horror Picture Show are kind of the two. Although Rocky Horror has its issues, at least in terms of the attitude of one of the creators, but it is a fantastic film.
Nice. So one of my very, 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 very favorites, and it was actually mentioned by Shakita, and we're gonna get into that in a minute, but it's The Birdcage.
Yes.
I love The Birdcage so much. It's I actually need to watch it again. I haven't watched it in a while, but it is so fun. Like, I remember seeing it in the theater for the first time, and I was laughing so hard I was like about to pee my pants. And it's really touching too, and it gets into some of those emotional, like, just the whole thing with Nathan Lane's character and how he plays this I don't know if she's trans, or I'm not entirely sure on that. But
I think that the way that she's represented is she's a drag queen. So
right, okay.
So I believe that as in her drag persona she identifies as female.
Right.
But okay. Outside of her drag persona she identifies as a gay man. That's my understanding based upon what the film shows. The film's kind of nebulous about it.
It is, and I feel like if it were made today it would be a little bit more definitive. But yeah. It's one of those things where it's like, I don't want them to ever remake that movie because it's perfect. But also I do think that... Oh, sorry, what?
I was going to say, well, and it's based on La Cage aux Folles.
It is. Mm-hmm.
So it is kind of
and I think a remake. Yeah.
I think in that one it's similar, where it's the Nathan Lane character in that one is a drag queen who is a gay man otherwise, right? Mm-hmm. So it's got that kind of... It's almost a dual persona.
Yeah, yeah. And Nathan Lane plays both sides of that persona so well. Like, it's such a great, he gives such a great performance. But it's really touching when there are those conversations with the son. What's his name? It's been a long time.
Val.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. About like, well, I'm your mother. I'm the one that's been here for you, and why do you need this other woman who's never really been around? And why do you have to present this image of something that doesn't really exist and is not actually you? And I love that so much. And yeah, plus Hank Azaria is so funny.
So funny. So is Robin Williams.
Yes.
Robin Williams is great. And I mean, the scene where he does all of the different choreographers is just classic. I think people have just seen that scene and don't know where it's even from. Mm-hmm. No, that's honestly, The Birdcage is one of my favorites. I think The Birdcage was one of the first that and Tu Wong Fu, Thanks for Everything, Julie Newmar are kind of the two that probably the first explicitly queer films that I ever saw.
Yeah.
And yeah, the Birdcage, I absolutely agree with you about the Nathan Lane character and how that character could be just a joke, right? It could be like, oh, this really extreme kind of flaming queen, drag queen, this big persona, right? But Lane in particular gives her depth. And reality, and the fact that, yeah, she, for all intents and purposes, she is Val's mother, right? You know, she raised this kid and is heartbroken that basically he's like, I want to deny my mother. I want to deny the fact, but at the same time is willing to go along with it because she cares so much about her son.
Right.
And it's so it gives this nuance to a performance and to a story that could just be really broad and funny, but not really meaningful. And then of course the entire film ends with Gene Hackman in drag, which is just fantastic.
It's so perfect. I love it so much. Yeah. Good one. Okay, we'll come back to more of our favorites in a second, but really quickly, we got some submissions. So Mason said 1999's Fucking Amal, which I had not heard of, and then when you said Show Me Love, I was like, oh wait, maybe this is starting to come back to me now. So it was released as Show Me Love in the United States. It's a Swedish film, you said?
Yeah.
By Lucas Moodysson. And so I have not seen that, and I need to, and I will add it to my list. Shakita also submitted a few really good ones. She did say The Birdcage, and then she says Robin Williams, duh, and yes, exactly. Let's see. She also said Moonlight, Portrait of a Lady on Fire, and Love, Simon. Those are all just perfect movies. So good. All
very different films too. I mean, like, and Moonlight, in particular, you know, is such a, that's an interesting film because it's so understated in so many ways, but at the same time feels so important and groundbreaking. And yeah, like, I mean, Moonlight is fantastic, and I like the fact that it's about this gay Black man and him dealing with being gay and Black, right? And male.
All while living in a place where he couldn't be gay. Like that wasn't acceptable in the community where he is. And also he has a mother who is a drug addict, who has all kinds of problems. He's got like, the closest thing he has to a father figure is not his father. It's like his mom's dealer. And so he doesn't have someone to be a guide and a mentor through, and it goes, for anybody who hasn't seen Moonlight, it goes through 3 different times of this young man's life. Like it starts when he's young, very young, and then when he's a teenager, and then when he's an adult and he's more, able to be who he is. And so it's just kind of that journey, and yeah, he kind of has to find his way through it, and it really just puts you, it's such a beautiful film. Barry Jenkins does just such an amazing job, because it really does help you, at least for me, it helps me like understand more of that experience on a lot of levels. And it's amazing acting, just beautifully shot, such a special gift of a movie. And it will forever bother me that the whole envelope thing happened, because that became the thing that is synonymous with this movie, and it's not remembered for what it really is.
Yeah, no, definitely. And I was just going to say that even though it's such a serious subject matter in a lot of ways, it's a very hopeful and kind and gentle film. It's about, in a lot of ways, it's about positive masculinity in spite of all, right? And there's something, it's very uplifting, actually. And I really like that about it, because we're so used to seeing, in dramas especially, and particularly Black people generally being hurt or killed or badly damaged. And for there not being a great deal of hope. And when you're also talking about LGBTQ subject matters, then it's very often even worse. It's either kind of, the broad comedy or it's deeply depressing. And this one manages to be a drama that is not depressing particularly. It takes things very seriously, but it is very elevating and uplifting and very much about kind of perseverance and not perseverance in kind of like, oh, he fights back against the system sort of way, but just in continuing to be the person that you are.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes, absolutely.
And then we've talked a lot about Portrait of a Lady on Fire.
We have. In fact, we did a whole episode all about it. You can go listen to that. Mm-hmm.
We did. Yes, it is a great film.
Yep. And Love, Simon is just such a sweet, cute movie. For anybody who hasn't seen that one, you should definitely watch that too. I think it's I remember when it came out and people were like, do we still need movies like this? And I'm like, the fact that you're asking that question says that we do.
You mean of the like 1 or 2 films that we have like that?
Exactly.
I mean, yeah, we've got teen romantic comedies, but most of them are not about gay people.
Right. And that struggle of like, I mean, it just does so many things so beautifully and so sweetly, and that he's really struggling with finding the right way or the right time to come out, and then it just kind of happens, and he's been geared up for like this big backlash against him, and then it doesn't happen at all the way he thought it would. And yes, we definitely need more movies like that. Sorry.
Go on.
I was trying to find. I was clicking on the wrong tabs. Okay. And we also, this was in our DMs. I think it was probably just because it was a long message, but just in case you didn't want your name attached to it, I'm not. I'm just gonna say someone sent this to us. You know who you are, and thank you. So, concerning LGBTQ plus films, I'm curious what you would consider essential or favorite bisexual films. It seems difficult when so many portrayals lean into harmful tropes, such as psychotic bi woman, character just fooling themselves and is really gay or straight, etc. I believe Casablanca is a quintessential bi film, but I don't see it come up too much.
That's an interesting one, because I would actually like to hear more about that, because I never particularly interpreted Casablanca as being a bi film.
I hadn't either, and then I Googled it because of this question, and there's like whole Reddits about it.
Really? That's fascinating. Like, is it the Rick Louis relationship, or what is it?
Yeah, it's Rick and Louis. There was also, there was another one that let's see. Sorry. There's also, there was a question about Louis Renault, and someone was like, what, is he supposed to be straight, or is he gay, or is he bi? And someone else was like, he's just French.
I mean, yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, I think a lot of it has to do with, someone else had said that it's because, there's multiple times where Rick leaves a conversation with a woman to go have a conversation with a man, stuff like that. So, yeah, it's interesting. I'm actually going to dive into that a little bit more. I really had never looked at it that way, and so I didn't really realize. I wish that I had seen that question sooner so I could have given it more attention. But yeah, so I would love to hear more from you, dear listener, about why that is a quintessential bi film, because I am totally open to hearing that interpretation, and I would love to know your thoughts. So, are there any films, Lauren, that you would consider essential or favorite bisexual
Well,
films.
one that I actually just thought of, and I think that the commenter is right about this one, because there does seem to be, and I think that some of this is a little bit because getting actual, gay content, right, same-sex content, has been such an uphill battle for so long, that when films are made about gayness, or about the LGBTQ community, it tends to be a romance, you've got romantic comedies, but we've also got, romantic dramas, and that it does kind of come down on the binary, as it were. Actually, one that came up just as I was thinking about it is Cabaret, which is not, I wouldn't necessarily say is 100% a bi film necessarily, but it is about different ways of loving people. And the way in which the Michael York and the Liza Minnelli character truly love each other and desire each other in a lot of ways, even though he also has desires for other men. And they come to a kind of really interesting equilibrium where they have this strong attachment to one another, and they love each other and they care for one another without necessarily being sexualized, et cetera. Again, so I think that there is still that kind of attitude of like, you're either one or the other sort of thing. But that film does actually explore the notion of loving people in different ways. Yeah, so that would be one that I think of. It's interesting, actually, if you Google this, so many of the films, I'm just like, no, that's gay, that they're gay. Disobedience is one that came up, the film with Rachel Weisz and Rachel McAdams, which is similar in the sense that it is about different ways of loving people and desiring one person, but also being in love with another, and of different genders. And so I think that could kind of be looked at in the same way. But again, there's still that component of these two women actually want to be with each other sexually, and they're not really interested in men sexually.
Yeah. One that I think kind of, because it's complicated, because so often it feels like they'll just throw in, oh, well, this character's actually bisexual, so that you can check that box, like, oh, look, we have diversity in this movie, but then they're still either going to have entirely gay or entirely straight relationships anyway. So it does get complicated. But a lot of people in real life are like that too. So, I mean, I don't know. It's tricky. But one movie that I saw on a couple of lists, and at first I was kind of thinking, does that really count? And then I was like, wait, actually, yeah. Shiva Baby. Did you ever watch that one? I think it was last year.
I did, yeah. It's great.
Yeah. Because at first I was thinking, like, well, no, she's a lesbian, she's totally into this girl, but then I thought, well, but she actually has feelings for the guy that is her sugar daddy.
Yeah.
It's not that she's just awkward because he's there at this funeral with his wife and his kid. It's there's a lot of reasons why it's awkward, so yeah. So I think that's a good one, and I think that needs to be in the rotation for people.
Very few representations of bisexual men.
Yeah.
And again, I think that actually probably, and if I were to think about it for longer, I would probably be able to come up with some classical films that fit that criteria, because it was so frowned upon. You couldn't, well, not frowned upon. It was not allowed to depict same-sex relationships. And so very often men who would be otherwise typed as queer or gay were presented as being in marriages or relationships with women, et cetera. And so some of them could potentially be read as more bisexual than gay. On the other side of it, then you also have to deal with the fact that, but also it's just being closeted.
Yeah.
And sort of being compulsory heterosexuality. So yeah, probably there are certain films in fact, there are some films like with like the Rock Hudson and Doris Day films, and some of them with like Tony Randall, right, who is very often depicted as being this guy who's constantly striking out with women, but is also typed in a lot of ways as being queer. Some Like It Hot might qualify, actually.
Yeah, maybe. The
Jack Lemmon character, at least.
Mm-hmm.
Because he definitely desires women, but he definitely also is gay at the same time. So yeah, so you could definitely interpret him as being bisexual. Again, it's difficult to overlay that kind of thing because everything has to be a little bit subsumed.
Right, it's true. I think probably the most bisexual movie that I have ever seen is Interview with the Vampire.
Vampires are automatically polyamorous. Like
yes, definitely.
they want everybody all the time. So like any vampire movie is automatically just like, it's not even bisexual, it's polyamorous, polysexual, it's all the sexuals.
It's true. It's true. Any other?
Pansexual, there we go. That's what I meant.
Pansexual, yes. That is true. Good point.
Well, in terms of television shows, the character of David on Schitt's Creek is pansexual,
right?
And so he desires and sleeps with at one point both men and women and everybody. That like he finds everyone attractive. So again, not bisexual representation, pansexual representation, but that's even rarer. Except in vampire movies.
Yep, exactly. It's true. So, did you have any other favorite movies for Pride, just in general, that people should watch?
If anyone has not seen To Wong Fu, Thanks for Everything, Julie Newmar, you have to, because it's great.
Gem of a movie.
And it is Wesley Snipes and Patrick Swayze and John Leguizamo as drag queens, and I always marvel at the fact that anyone at any point could think that Wesley Snipes or Patrick Swayze, who have shoulders out to here,
yep.
right, and are like could just be like, oh, they're totally women. Like it's just like, no. John Leguizamo passes very well, actually,
completely.
But like, yeah, and he's supposed to, woman. Right? But the two of them are just like, they are not women. But it's a fantastic film. It's very funny, and I think that The Adventures of Priscilla, Queen of the Desert, which is the Australian film that To Wong Fu is based on, is also fantastic. Much more loose and kind of free flowing than To Wong Fu, which does have a plot and everything. But really, it's all about drag queens spreading love across the country. And that's really what we all need. So yeah, I fucking love that movie.
It's a great one. It really is. Another film that I really, really loved was from a couple years ago. It's A Fantastic Woman. It was Chile.
Which I still have not seen.
Oh my god.
I'm sorry, still have not seen it.
So
Go on.
Good. So good. That was Chile's submission to the Academy Awards a couple years ago, and it won. At the time it was still called Best Foreign Language Film. I think that was the year before they changed it. But Daniela Vega is her name. She plays this woman. She's a trans woman, and she loses her partner. He just kind of dies very unexpectedly, and she is obviously grieving and shattered from losing him, but she's also having to deal with the transphobia from his family, and she gets completely shut out. She's not invited to the funeral. They don't want her around. They don't want to give her access to any of his things or any of her things that are still at his place, and just the way that she's treated. And it's another one that, like, I think that there is kind of some hope at the end, but I think it's mostly comes from watching someone come through the other side of grief. It's not because it's like, oh, suddenly there's love and acceptance all around. It's not like that, but not to give anything away. But it's really just this beautiful journey and this really heartbreaking journey. And Daniela Vega is incredible in it. Such a beautiful performance.
Well, I still really need to see that. That's a good recommendation.
Do you have another one?
Yeah, another one. I feel like we can't pass by this without at least mentioning Almodovar, all of whose films are queer at some level. One of, I think, the best, just in terms of directly talking about homosexuality, etc., is All About My Mother. which is a 1999 film, and it opens actually with a mother losing her son. And after his death, she basically goes out and tries to locate his father, and discovers along the way that his father has become a transvestite. At that point, is transvestite, is a prostitute, etc. She becomes involved with a pregnant nun played by Penelope Cruz, and it's very funny and entertaining, and also, again, building off of what you were talking about this navigation of grief. And it's this woman's journey, but it's also this woman kind of going back into her past and her son's past, and understanding their relationship to this man, and how he has changed and become different, and how she rebuilds a life basically out of the loss of her son.
That sounds really good.
It is very good.
I am just going to wrap this part up with another plug. We talked about them extensively, but another plug for the Fear Street trilogy, which is on Netflix, and we love it. And that's another good one. So
absolutely.
Thank you.
And I
more about that. Like I said, we've talked about it a lot.
And I just want to give a shout out to Fire Island, which just came out on Hulu. Is very good, is very funny. No, it does not pass the Bechdel test, as one person complained on Twitter today.
Loudly. That was such a weird,
it was. It's very weird to see things like that, because I'm telling. Okay, Fire Island is a movie about gay men on Fire Island. It does have a couple of female characters, as one very prominent female character, who's a lesbian. But no, it does not pass the Bechdel test, because it's not about women. It's about gay men. And it's not just about gay men, it's about gay men of color, and specifically about being an Asian American gay man and navigating that. And it's funny, it's entertaining, it's a fucking gay Pride and Prejudice on Fire Island. It's hilarious. It's so well done. So I really recommend that. Honestly. I do not expect it to be about women, because it's about gay men.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, there's a lot to be said for whatever happened with the Bechdel test, and how people got it completely wrong, and how they've just run amok with it and totally took something that was supposed to be a joke, and they took it seriously, because dudes do that, and they ruin everything. Anyway.
It's bad faith now at this point. Like, I do actually think that people are using it to run down certain films. So, the fact that you're targeting Fire Island with, like, well, it's not feminist, just like, it has fuck all to do with, like, what are you even talking about? It's just like, and by the way, it does pass the sexy lamp test. There is a female character. She cannot be replaced by a sexy lamp. So, because she's Margaret Cho, by the way.
All right. Well, I need to watch this movie, and I will.
It's lovely. It really is a good comedy.
Awesome. So, was there anything that you've been watching lately besides Fire Island that you wanted to mention that may or may not be Pride related?
Well, I don't know if this is Pride related or not. I want to give a really quick plug to a film that has kind of become like a major sleeper hit in the United States, which is very surprising for all of us. RRR, which is the Indian epic. It is 3 hours long. There's everything happens in this film. It's funny. It's adventurous. Like, it's very much like exactly what we talk about when we talk about epics. Like, it's cheesy. It's intended to be cheesy. It's entertaining. You still feel this like great uplift of like, yes, no, you have to save your friend kind of thing. Like, it's very like melodramatic, etc. It is so well done. It's on Netflix. It is one of those films. I had to watch it in 2 parts simply because it's a 3-hour-long film. But it's got musical numbers and dudes throwing leopards at other dudes and rebelling against the British and rescuing small children from the grasps of the evil governor of Delhi.
I mean, why would anybody not want to watch that? That sounds perfect.
It's so fantastic. It's so uplifting. It is a great film to just like sit back and enjoy. And I particularly enjoyed the fact that I watched it during the Platinum Jubilee weekend, because nobody hates the British the way that this film hates the British, honestly. Mm-hmm. So yes, strongly recommend it. Everybody just sit down, carve out 3 hours, carve out an hour and a half one day, an hour and a half the next. Sit down and watch this movie.
I have not seen it yet. I have been wanting to, and part of why I haven't is because it's 3 hours long. But I think this is going to be the weekend that it happens. I can't wait. And even without having seen it, and even without having seen anything else that's coming, there's just this part of me that really hopes this is the year that India wins the International Feature Oscar. They've never won.
It'll be interesting. I mean, people have remarked on the fact that, but India is one of the biggest producers of films. Mm-hmm. And they are, it's basically Hollywood, India, Nigeria, China are among the biggest. Yep. And Indian films, particularly the big popular films, are very different from American films. But I think, we need to note the fact that that's okay, right? So this particular film that I'm talking about, it's cheesy. Like you look at it, it's just like, oh, a lot of this is really cheesy. It's very on the nose, but it does what it does so well and is so entertaining. And that really does cross borders. Like watching it, you're just like, this is just fun to experience. And like, I'm emotionally invested in the fates of these characters.
I cannot wait to watch it. I really can't. I haven't watched as many as I would like, but I don't think I've ever seen an Indian film that I did not love. There is a very different feel when you're watching an Indian film, and I really like, and it's several years ago I actually went on a trip, and our tour guide, I was in India, and our tour guide, we were talking about movies, and because what was the one that had come out, this was 2017 that I took that trip, and I can't think of what movie we would have been talking about. Oh, Lion. He was asking me about Lion. He hadn't seen it yet. I loved Lion. I thought that was a beautiful film. And he said that people in India didn't really want to watch it because they watch movies to escape. They're like, look around. Life sucks. Life is hard. Why do we want to watch movies about people going through hard things? We want to watch movies about people enjoying life. And I thought, that's interesting. and ever since then, like I've thought about that a lot, and it really does contextualize Indian films very specifically.
Yeah, and actually some of the I think that some of the types of films that we get in the United States that are as close as kind of the feel of a lot of it. And we do have to note that there are a lot of different kinds of Indian films. They do have very serious films. Mm-hmm. They do have they have their own, there are other kinds of films than kind of the big Bollywood epics or musicals, etc. Those are basically their action movies in the same way. Yeah. But that's what I was going to say is the film, like Fast and the Furious, are really as close as I can get to the feel of a lot of Indian films, because it's that, is this physically possible? No. Is this like incredibly melodramatic and on the nose and just like superficial emotions? 100%. I love it. It is so entertaining, right? I'm sitting here being entertained by this. And I care enough about the characters that I actually want to watch what happens to them. I care that they win the race, Yeah. And I think that we need to embrace that more. I'm really glad that this film, I honestly would never watch this film if a number of people had not kept on saying, like, you really want to watch this film, like you will love it. And I was fine, like, okay, yeah, sure, this sounds like fun. But yeah, it can be daunting, especially when you're looking at a 3-hour film. Luckily, at least with these kinds of 3-hour films, it doesn't feel like a slog. It doesn't feel like you're you know, you really are just like, oh, it's more stuff is just going to happen and it's going to get even more intense. And oh my God, but what if he betrays his best friend?
I honestly can't wait to watch it. I really do want to. I've been looking forward to it. I was trying to see it in the theater, but then that didn't work out. So, because it got such a limited release. But just in general, I appreciate it because it is on Netflix, and I appreciate that Netflix actually has really cultivated. They don't do a lot to show you that it's there, but they've cultivated a pretty nice collection of Indian films.
Yeah.
And there are lots of good ones on there. So it's, yeah. I feel like Netflix is doing more with international than a lot of the other streamers are doing.
Yeah, the problem with Netflix is that they like you say, they bury them. They tend to like wind up in. Actually, because of the algorithm, I'm getting a lot of suggestions for Indian films now because I watched it. And so it's like, oh, actually, that sounds kind of interesting. A gay cop and a lesbian school teacher decide to get married in order to appease their families. This sounds that's cool. All right, I'll watch that. It's 2.5 hours. What could possibly happen?
2.5 hours of joy. Well, and you know what? It's funny because when I was on that trip, we went to a movie theater, and it well, that was a very interesting experience, like in a great way. I'm so glad that we went. Our tour guide was really excited. He was just like, I want you to experience what the movies are like here in India. And so we were going to go one night, and then he said, oh no, we're going to have to wait until tomorrow because they're showing The Mummy. And he goes, you didn't come all the way to India to see Tom Cruise. And I was like, well, maybe some of us did. But so then we went the next night, and you go in, and it's just like, he said, oh yeah, the seats are really nice, they're recliners. You know, we go in, and my friend and I, we cannot watch movies without popcorn, so we go up and buy popcorn, and we were like, yeah, we'll take a large popcorn. And it was less than what we get in a small here. It was just like, wait, where's the rest of it? And I was like, oh yeah, Americans, this is why we're all fat. But then we go into the theater, and the recliners, basically, like, you just scoot back the seat a little bit, and the front pops up just a little bit so that your feet aren't directly on the floor. That was the recliners. And I was like, oh, wow, this is very different. But it was nice, and it was cozy, it was comfortable, it was a big auditorium, it was full. And they started with the national anthem. Everyone stood. It was recorded. It wasn't somebody in the room singing, but they had the national anthem, and then they started the trailers, and then the movie started, and everyone was so into it. We didn't have subtitles, so we had no idea what was going on, but we were having an amazing time. And then they had an intermission. Imagine that, an intermission in a 2-hour movie. And then, yeah. It was just so much fun. And so if anybody finds themselves on a trip to India, I highly recommend going to the movies. It is a great cultural experience that you will not regret.
I will remember to do that.
There you go. And we saw a movie called Three Idiots. Rob a bank or something like that. It wasn't just Three Idiots, because there's like a whole movie. I think there's a franchise, the Three Idiots franchise. But it's these three guys, and they're dumb, and they rob a bank, and everything goes wrong because they're nice guys. They're not big bad crooks. And of course there's a musical number, and of course there's a beautiful girl that shows up who is in love with one of the robbers, and the cops are outside. It's a standoff, and it was just so much fun. So, I just really want to put in a quick plug for a show that will have premiered on Disney Plus by the time you are listening to this, and that is Ms. Marvel, which is the newest MCU show. Mm-hmm. It is on Disney Plus, and I didn't have any idea what to expect. I loved it. It's so, so cute. The girl who plays Kamala Khan, who's the main character, her name is Iman Vellani, and that girl is going places. She is so good. She's very funny. She's very sweet. And, Yeah, I'm really excited for this show. It's this teenage girl in New Jersey who is obsessed with Captain Marvel. That's her favorite Avenger, because in this universe the Avengers exist, and she and her friend are going to their first Avenger Con, and they're dressing as she's doing the Captain Marvel cosplay, and she accidentally discovers that she has some powers and a long family legacy. So yeah, it's a lot of fun. It's very colorful. The music is great. They incorporate, her family is Pakistani, I believe. So they incorporate a lot of music from the region, but also current more modern pop music, American pop music, I mean. And her family is Muslim. They show, scenes at the mosque, and so it's just this, like, it just really dives into this other world and just really lets us just feel this girl's experience. And it's very clever, it's very funny, very well written. So
that sounds lovely.
Yeah.
I've been very resistant to the Marvel shows, but you may be talking me into giving this one a shot.
I feel like this is one that you will like.
Okay.
Yeah. If not, I mean, you can watch the first episode and just say, no.
Mm-hmm.
But it's pretty easy. But I think you'll like this one. I think you should give it a try.
Cool.
It feels like a less violent and less I won't say vulgar, because I don't feel like she's vulgar, but it feels like a more toned down version a little bit of Birds of Prey, except for Kamal is a hero, not a villain.
Okay. All right. You might have sold me right there. Speaking of bisexual representation, yes. Harley Quinn is canonically bisexual. Just want to say completely. That. Mm-hmm. Yep. And I strongly support in Birds of Prey 2 when that movie is definitely going to be made.
It's going to.
We need Poison Ivy, because my understanding from those who know is that Harley and Poison Ivy have a thing. So, yes. Yeah.
They very much do. That is canon. And if it's not canon in the comics, it's canon in my brain, so it needs to happen.
I think that it is canon in the comics, at least some of them. Yeah.
I'm pretty sure. So, all right. Any final thoughts?
No, watch more movies, guys.
Watch more movies. Watch all the movies and then watch more of them. That is how that works. All right. Well, thank you so much for listening. If you have made it all the way to the end, you are one of our favorite people. We love you, and we hope that you have found some great movies to check out and add to your list. We will be back with more episodes, and we're working on some bonus content and stuff for our Patreon. And I know I promised a week or two ago that I was going to start my Cruising with Cruise on the Patreon, and that is happening. That is happening this week. So I just, speaking of not finding time, I have not found time to rewatch Endless Love, which is, I mean, he's in it for 45 seconds. Do I really need to rewatch the whole movie? Probably not, but yes, I will. I will do it right. So
you do, because that movie sounds insane.
It is insane. It is so insane. It's like if I had not witnessed it with my eyes, I would probably not have believed it. But anyway, so if you are a patron, you will be able to access that and so much more. And we would like to thank our patrons who help keep this show going. They are Adriana, Ali, Brian, Connor, Estefania, Heather, James, Kathleen, Carriata, Mason, Matt, Michelle, Monty, Nanina, Robert, Steve, Sharon, Tao, and Will. And you can join them too by going to patreon.com/citizensdame and signing up. We also have our Zazzle store, zazzle.com/citizendamepod. I have been super busy and have not gotten new stuff in there, but it's coming. It's coming, I promise. And we have our Ko-Fi, ko-fi.com/citizendame. For other ways to connect with us, be sure to check out our website, citizendamepod.com. We do have reviews for stuff. I think the latest thing on there was Lauren's review of The Northman, which is great, and you definitely need to give that a read. I will have reviews this week for Ms. Marvel. I will have a written review of that. There's a couple new things coming. I might even write a little thing or two about the dinosaur movie. We'll see. Who knows?
And I'll also have some Tribeca stuff coming up within the next couple of weeks.
Yay, Tribeca!
Yay, Tribeca!
Ooh, we love Tribeca. If you want to contact us directly, you can reach us at citizendamepod@gmail.com. And you can find us on all the socials, or some of the socials. We're on Twitter and Instagram at CitizenDamePod and Letterboxd at CitizenDame, where we do or will have a list of Pride movie recommendations. I don't remember if there's one there right now, but it'll be there by the time you're listening to this.
There are a bunch of cowboy movies that are totally 100% heterosexual. So
yes, there is that. That's a good start. That is a good start. So anyway, and you can also find us individually. Lauren, where are you?
I am on Twitter, Instagram, and Letterboxd at LH Business.
And I am on Twitter, Instagram, and Letterboxd at Karen M. Peterson. So that's it for this week. Thank you so much, and we will catch you next time.
Bye.
I don't think I get it.
Try more gum.
Albert.
I hear you.
Thank you, I know you do. Celsius, you have to explore it. But let's start with the premise that when you see this stunning, smoldering creature, she transcends your desire to chew. She electrifies you. Something starts in your pelvis and works its way towards your heart, where it becomes heart/pelvis. Yes? Coming.
What about me? What do I do? Do I just stand here like an object?
No. You do an eclectic celebration of the dance. You do Fosse, Fosse, Fosse. You do Martha Graham, Martha Graham, Martha Graham. Or Twyla, Twyla, Twyla. Or Michael Kidd, Michael Kidd, Michael Kidd, Michael Kidd. Or Madonna, Madonna, Madonna. But you keep it all inside. All right, just work on that. I'll be right back. It's looking wonderful, though.